Welcome to the Cleary Minds podcast. I'm your host, Tom Egan. Here, the classroom meets the real world, and we talk with leaders and changemakers. Let's get into it. And you are?
It's great. So I'm James Glasson. I work for Rockwell Automation as Industry Vice President for Automotive, Tire, and Advanced Mobility. So it's a fancy way of saying I have global responsibility for our automotive, tire, and our EV battery business globally.
I love how you summed that up, and I heard you telling students that you were selling solutions, not products.
It's really important when we talk about sales, it's a relationship business. You assume that the technology is already getting you in the door. So if you assume everybody has equal quality technology as the floor, so you're all equal.
Yeah.
So what makes the difference? It's relationships. Of course, commercially, price always has a difference in there, but it's what problem can you solve for the customer?
Yeah.
So really digging in and asking what's the problem or the challenge that you're having, and then creating that solution around that.
Right.
The products just naturally get attached to it. So you
Yeah.
don't actually talk about, I'm going to sell you this widget or that software solution. It comes together naturally.
Wow, I love that lens. Yeah, how the sales happens almost as a byproduct. And then your position, you obviously have huge leadership responsibilities. You know, in our little Cleary Mind 8 attributes, we've defined leadership as inspiring and motivating others to do greatness, usually to achieve the goals of the organization. I liked your flavor of empowering others, and maybe you could talk about what you mean by that.
Yeah, for sure. So enablement is critical to success. So enablement means different things to different people, but for me, it's creating the vision of what the end goal state should look like. So where is it on that journey you want to go? Well, how time frame do you want to get there if there's interim steps along the way? But then clearly defining how people fit into that vision.
Yeah.
What's their role to play? How do they contribute? So that way they not only are participating in the journey, they can see how they're personally contributing, what the end state is.
Yeah.
And then for my portion, the leadership is really making sure that they understand that, but then being the enabler for them.
Yeah.
Their success is my success.
Right.
You know, it's not the other way around.
Yeah.
I can be successful in something and it not flow down. But when they're not successful, it impacts everybody.
Yeah.
So my job becomes making sure that those barriers to success are removed.
Yeah.
And that's the enablement factor.
Yeah.
And that's so vision, success, how they fit into the play, and then breaking down barriers.
A lot of why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's part of the vision. So I also thought it was kind of interesting in the realm of engineering, because you started with an engineering degree and now largely fulfill all these business functions. And you talked about a little process of moving from electrical engineering to quality engineering to process engineering. And then you found you really loved sort of the process.
I enjoy the engineering part of the world. I always enjoy getting my hands dirty and getting into the how things work and why they work.
Yeah.
I still enjoy that today. But what I found is a natural progression of interest came out of engineering. I pivoted because at the end of the day, engineering just wasn't my core desire. It wasn't something I was passionate about.
Yeah.
But getting involved in the manufacturing side of the world got me involved in how things are built and how to improve that. And the quality aspect was how do you continually make it better? So those Six Sigma factors and enjoying all those other quality tools.
Yeah.
But that turned into applying the engineering, and then how do you do it better? What new technologies can you adapt to continually progress down that technology path? We see that today advancing very rapidly. And it's how do you adapt and continually adapt in that environment.
Yeah.
So I'm still using the skills that I learned 25 years ago. They're just being applied to different end states.
Yeah. Well, I loved all the business roles you shared with our students, because they're thinking about what they want to do and the environment they want to do it. And, one student even talked about, travel just being a big part of that. And so I loved your recommendations for that. And so kind of like the business aspect started around this idea of account manager, taking care of accounts and moving into more of the business role. But you got put in charge of turning a plant around, to your surprise. I love that story because I thought it was, it seems like a turning point in your life, and you like to do this stuff, but now all of a sudden you're responsible to turn it into something and make it happen.
Yeah, and what was really interesting about that was it wasn't something I had asked for. It wasn't something I had anticipated. When I was asked to start working in that environment, it was with the understanding that, okay, I'm here to help. I didn't understand the scope of what help might grow into.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when you're trying to scale, from 50 million to 100 million, or maybe it's 250 million to 500 million, but doubling the size of a business is not easy.
Yeah.
And what we learned was that it was the lack of experience and knowledge of the team that was there was the barrier. But behind that was 450 people that were working there that depended on those people to make those decisions to enable them to be successful. And success for them was, like I mentioned in class, being able to pay your mortgage, your rent,
right.
to buy a gift for your child at Christmas, or to pay for your car payment. So I really felt like that was my personal charter, was to protect them.
Yeah.
And so it turned into what's the best decision for the business, and then just really breaking down and analyzing every aspect of the business from an enterprise perspective, and then how the business should function.
Yeah.
And so I found myself going from a customer center head to becoming managing director and CEO, which was not something I asked for. But at the same time, it was a responsibility that I truly enjoyed. I do today. I always say it was the most stressful, anxiety-driven portion of my life, but it turned out to be the most rewarding, the most grateful. It was just a tremendous opportunity.
And you found you loved to be this sort of fixer role, right? You could come into a troubled situation and turn it around. And I think the words you used in class were it was the best time, but also the toughest time, because it sounded like you had some extreme challenges. But in the end, the most proud of what you've accomplished. So that was really cool. And so another theme that came through all of this in terms of leadership was one, specific Cleary Mind attribute we use, but also communication. And I thought it was great, the emphasis on communication. We kind of defined it as, anything that's communication to get your point across clearly so that people understand, right? That's the important part. As clear as you may be, if they don't understand, it's not, still good.
It doesn't translate.
Yeah.
One of my mentors used to say that if anything was important, if you're giving direction or making a decision, it had to be put in writing, and it had to be crystal clear. There could be no wiggle room for misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't document it and it wasn't clear, then everyone will walk away with a different understanding.
Yeah.
And so you find in projects or in large decisions, complex organizations, that you might find pockets of really good communication, but it doesn't extend to the folks that are actually implementing the decisions that are coming out of those meetings or those groups.
Sure.
So over communicating and where you feel you're over communicating often is just communicating just enough.
Yeah.
And so it's not a natural motion for most people to communicate at a high level. Transparency in a lot of people will internalize information as power, especially when you get higher up in an organization.
Yeah.
I think truly great communicators and leaders are as transparent as they possibly can be to the limits of what they're able to share.
Yeah.
But amongst teams and large teams and collaboration, just really communicating the details at a fine level without taking over somebody else's responsibility is super important.
Yeah. And I love the lessons that you learned by all of a sudden being responsible for team members in multiple countries, and the communication finalities you had to learn in working with those people. I mentioned seeing this in the culture of General Motors and other companies, but this idea are we on track? Everybody wants to say yes, and we're going to do it, and we're going to win, and we're going to succeed, and then in the end, you find out that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine being the receiver of something that you've been expecting to be done for weeks or months or even 6 months or a year, and all of a sudden finding out right before it's supposed to be handed off to you as a completed product that it's not ready.
Yeah.
And how you have to then react to that can be volatile to the organization. So again, transparency and communication is critical. But oftentimes it comes from just not understanding the communication.
Yeah.
So when you're communicating across cultures and different languages, you have to take incremental steps to make sure that it's clear. And that can be breaking tasks down on in an agile framework where you're working on things every 2 weeks on what's the most important task, where you're able to manage task at the task level, or just putting somebody else as an interim management responsible to make sure that they're taking an invested interest in what's responsible in their area.
Yeah.
So again, it's just taking those extra cautious steps to make sure things are understood
Right.
and being worked on.
I love that. That's great. You mentioned to students that in communicating themselves, your job is your job, your role is your role, but you encourage them to really, take stretch projects, learn something different, take responsibility for things, seek out mentors, get involved in the pursuit of your own career, take responsibility for your own career. Because, I never heard somebody say it that way. Like the person that you report to is, cares about you and your career as long as, as it relates to how you're supporting what they need you to do. But for the long trajectory of your own career, that you really need to take charge of that. And that was great advice.
I think most corporate functions, corporations will agree that they want to and are encouraged to develop their employees.
Mm-hmm.
Rockwell has a great philosophy of not holding back their employees, understanding that when an employee wants to advance, that our job is to help them find that new position. Like literally, how can I help you advance? Because we
that's
want
great.
to grow and continually develop the talent that's already inside of the company.
Yeah.
You could be in a position in a company where they don't have as a progressive, say, reemployment internally policy.
Yeah.
And so you find managers that are really focused on their function and the impacts to them if you leave. And that's so when I say own your career, it's creating that extra visibility for yourself. Because if you take on a stretch project, especially if it's outside of your specific department, then you're getting more visibility with another manager and another team.
Yeah.
You might get different executive level exposure. It helps you learn new skills, but it also people now associate your face and your name with another project.
Yeah.
So when you apply for something, they say, oh, I remember that person. Oh, they worked on this.
Yeah.
So it really helps expand your knowledge. So I also talk about expanding your tech stack.
Yeah.
And that contributes to that because now you're stretching yourself and you're learning a new skill or you're contributing to a team. And you may not be leading it, but you're a valuable contributor to the process. So at the end of the day, it's about how do you stretch your knowledge and continue to learn, giving yourself exposure while you're contributing to your function that you're assigned to.
Right on.
But it all helps build that credibility and that story that you can say, hey, I'm not just a team player, but I'm contributing to the larger picture or vision of the company.
Well, I love how you followed that up with the story of the sort of two colleagues, male and female, that were at the sort of same level, but they each tried, one person didn't do all of that and the other one did, and the other one who did got promoted and, better opportunities and faster career trajectories. So it's nice when the students get that lands squarely with them. That was great. And then, of course, in the process, mentorship was a big one for you. Really getting specific feedback from people so that you can grow and evolve. And,
Yeah, what a better way to learn than to have someone who's been doing it successfully before you, assuming for a number of years or decades, to give you that insight that you just can't learn in a short period of time, to tell you, hey, this is what will help you become successful.
Yeah.
Here's the pitfalls you want to avoid. But when you ask for feedback and they give it to you, mentorship's a two-way street. So they're investing time in you, but when they give you feedback, it's important that you put it into action because that shows that you value their time, but also that you're working on yourself and it's working, right?
Yeah.
Because the goal of mentorship is to make you a more well-rounded employee, make you more valuable to the company, to expand your skill base. At the end of the day, you're growing your career.
Yeah.
And subject matter experts, mentors, they've done it. So you don't need to recreate the wheel. The wheel's already been invented.
Nice.
Learn how to make a better wheel
Yeah.
and how to do it with less squeaks. I mean, that's the goal.
Less squeaks. Okay. I love that. Yeah, because that sort of cascaded down some recommendations. The first one, own your career, like we talked about. Mentorship was another. You really encourage the student to take risks. Make sure you have some life balance in there. Don't burn yourself out or you're not good for anybody. And then keep learning. So, how do you like to keep learning?
And it's important. Education comes in many different forms and factors. I said in class today that I literally learn something new every day.
Yeah.
I'm not the subject matter expert in every product that we have.
Yeah.
I should know who the people are to connect people when there's a question or a comment or a concern. But I take the opportunities to learn internally. So we have training classes. We have opportunities to learn about products and processes and solutions. So it's important to continually take those to level up your skill sets.
Yeah.
You can take specific classes externally. You can get involved in seminars, but getting involved in extra projects, brings your own internal learning. But you can take personal learning. If it's something you want to work on, Toastmasters was something I mentioned to you prior.
Yeah.
Being able to adapt your speech and learn how to deliver speeches clearer, engage the audience more.
Yeah.
There's things you can do. So those are all in the realm of continuous education.
Yeah, I love that. So great recommendations. And then you also had some interesting stories, like another attribute we talk about is ethics. They defined ethics as doing the right thing so you could sleep at night. Let's keep it simple. But you talked about in one of your higher level roles being asked, we don't have to talk about what it was, but you were being asked to do something that you felt simply was unethical, by many means. And, just kind of raised the flag and said, I'm not willing to do something that goes against, my values and what I think is right.
I think at the end of the day, all you have is your personal brand.
Yeah.
And attached to that is your reputation and your integrity.
Yeah.
So at some point, if you're asked to do something that you just don't think is ethical or violates your personal brand or your ethics, raise that up to the process or procedure in your organization. I found that situation untenable for me. I did that process.
Yeah.
The result of it ended up being a career pivot.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right.
And it's just it's important that you take those moments in life seriously.
Yeah. Well, I think what's important about the definition they came up with, it's not whether it turns out to your advantage or disadvantage, it's can you sleep at night, right? So it worked out to be a career pivot for you, but you walked away with your head held high and doing the right thing.
That's true. It's funny, we use the analogy of putting your head on the pillow and being able to fall asleep at night. We have this conversation with our team members who are just putting in maximum effort, that 120% every day. And they're frustrated that things aren't moving fast enough.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, listen, did you do your best today? And they're like, yes. I'm like, did you involve, people? Did you collaborate? Did you communicate? Was there something else that you didn't do that you should have done? No, I did everything I should have done. Well, then when you put your head on the pillow tonight, close your eyes, feel good about that because you're doing everything right.
Right.
So it's like that. Don't stress out about things you don't have control over.
Yeah.
You're managing your responsibilities. You're probably extending beyond your responsibilities.
Sure.
You're doing everything you can. So you have to be able to, put your head on the pillow and feel good about that.
Yeah. Well, I love that in your process, you found out that you personally love change. Not everybody does. That you really can see sort of the larger picture and break it all down into the little finer details. That you have the ability to pivot quickly and be very adaptable. And I think it was a great story of how you turned those things, those qualities, into actual career that's actually in a company that's doing something to make the world turn, So I really liked that you started with the things that you like to do that you found brought you joy and turned it into your, the business skills that runs your career. So I was curious, the students asked you what was something you would tell your younger self, and you said to be more confident or to be confident in yourself. And I was curious, you talked a little bit about that, but what does that mean to you looking back at your younger self?
So when you first start your career, when I first started my career, I had the belief that I was going to be an electrical engineer. And I feel like I was trying to convince myself the entire time that I'm going to be an electrical engineer. And to the point where my first job was an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
But I was constantly trying to convince myself that this is what you want to do. I didn't give myself enough grace in that moment to look at that objectively in the moment and say, maybe this isn't the right position for you. And I had been working for years, going to school and investing money and learning to do this. And now I'm doing it and I realize I don't want to do this. Yeah. Oops. So it's looking back, I should have given myself more grace in that moment, but I also should have been able to if I wish I would have had the foresight to say, it's okay. In that you don't need to convince yourself it's the right thing to do, that maybe there's something different.
Yeah.
And again, that's okay. So, manage it professionally, but also say, from a mental health and a career and a development perspective, it's okay to say I might have made a mistake.
Yeah.
And admitting you made a mistake is the first step in correcting that and taking a different path.
I'm so glad you said that because I actually wrote that down. And that was a point of pride for you that if you make a mistake, own it, be responsible and
yeah, I think it's also very powerful when you're in a group of people, your peers, your employees, and you admit that, hey, listen, I made a decision, I put a policy in place, I took an action, and ultimately it was the wrong decision. And own that. It shows that you can learn from your mistakes, number one. 2, that you're human, but also 3, that you're able to address it and then make a correction, hopefully for the benefit of the people that are involved in it, right? So it's the whole process. I think if you go around acting as if every decision you make is perfect and you walk on water, then I think you lose the respect of your peers and your colleagues.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to be sort of a fly on the wall following you around in all of your travels and adventures because, working in a global setting and being responsible for $1.2 billion and I think 134 reports that you have across the globe here. It just must be incredible. Yeah, I'm just fascinated I would love to see how your mind works and all of that and just travel. And I mean, you come across as super confident now, so.
There's a lot of compartmentalization happening all the time.
Yeah. So in all of that, after talking to students today, is there anything that you think that, and for our audience here, we have lots of students that will watch this on the recording. Is there anything else you think would be good to, bring forward that we feel like we didn't touch on yet, or a question that wasn't asked yet? Or
I mean, we talked a lot about adaptability, tailoring your resume and your skills to the jobs that you're applying for, showing up, just in summary, professionally, ready.
Yeah.
How you present yourself as a young student entering the job force.
Yeah.
It's important that there's some enthusiasm,
Yeah.
that you're showing interest in the company that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Give an example of how you think you can contribute to that company.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's in line with their objectives for the role.
Yeah.
It might not be, but you're making an attempt to show how you can bring value.
Yeah.
I think most companies understand that your skill sets are limited, but they want to understand that you're coachable, that you're trainable, that you're enthusiastic, that you're going to get behind that mission.
Gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, so it's those are important first impressions in how you're delivering yourself.
I love that.
Those are core pieces of the first step of being successful.
Yeah. Well, I loved how you said, you knew who you were and you knew what you had to offer. You just needed to find somebody that would, have that reciprocal value, pay you for that value that you provide. And I like the suggestion to students that, hey, 3 to 5 years, you may have to rethink if you're not increasing, your value's not increasing, or you're not getting compensated increasingly for your value, you may have to find another place that does. And, I think that's a good thing to acknowledge.
Yeah, it's not just about your monetary value, but
Right.
it's about your career arc.
Yeah.
And if you think of your career arc as literally as an arc, it's not linear.
Yeah.
It's going to have some motion to it, and so you have to manage that. But when you think about it in terms of financial terms, your career is a span over 30 plus years. So
Yeah, sure.
if you're happy just getting, average raises, as we talked about this morning, that's fine. But you're going to end up with a mediocre result after the end of your career, as
Right.
opposed to if you took some risk and took some jumps,
Yeah.
you'll realize the value of that over time, because your next raise is always on top of your last raise.
Yeah.
So if it's always 4%, 4%, 4%, but then you throw in a 15% here or there, or a 10% here or there, then you're getting a 3 or 4 year jump.
Yeah.
And if you do that 5 or 6 times across your career,
Yeah.
it really adds up by the end.
Yeah. Well, I loved you showing the students that model of taking that jump, going for it and it paying off. So, well, thanks a million for coming in today, and loved everything you shared. And like I said, we'll debrief the class and get you some really interesting feedback on what landed, especially after a day or two goes by. It's interesting to see what after image or afterglow, we call it, sticks with them.
Yep.
So,
I'm really looking forward to the feedback.
Yeah.
Tom, I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk to the students. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I hope they did as well.
Yeah.
And the feedback will be interesting for me, so I'm looking forward to that. But thank you again.
Sir. All right.
Appreciate it.